It's a truly honor to have Mr. Rabine here today speaking to us, so let's give it up for him.
Okay, thank you for having me here. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be in front of a bunch of future CEOs and existing and current CEOs. I didn't have the opportunity to be a part of an organization like this, and I tell you what, if I did, I might have done something serious with my life. And I say that with no, not jokingly. I tell you, entrepreneurship is the key to our country's success, and everybody here is going to be a part of the future of that. So my roadmap, I titled this Creek Bather, Asphalt Paver, and Dream Maker. You'll hear with this story, you'll understand why. So 3 traits I believe are needed for entrepreneurship success: passion, grit, and differentiation. When you think of these things, I mean, without activities to foster these 3 traits, they go nowhere. Activities such as networking and mentoring are vital. The glue between these 3 traits, mentoring and networking, is EI, emotional intelligence. Everybody here have been hearing about emotional intelligence and what that means to business and entrepreneurship? Raise the hands. It's gotten more and more popular in the last 10 years, but it wasn't really talked about that much 15, 20 years ago. Wikipedia defines this as the ability to identify, assess, and control the emotions of oneself, of others, and of groups. In simple terms, it's the ability to connect with people. If you can connect with people that you do business with, your vendors, your mentors, they're going to care about you. And in life, the most important thing is having a lot of cheerleaders out there that are out there for your best interest. So we'll go with the first trait, passion. Find your passion. When you find a career you're passionate about, you'll never work another day in your life. Think about that. If you find a career you're passionate about, you'll never work another day in your life. Makes life a hell of a lot more fun. Next thing is grit. Grit is perseverance. It's never afraid of getting dirty. It's confidence, not arrogance. It's the drive to compete and the ability to look at problems as challenges. It's leading by example. Grit can be learned all different ways. I'll tell my story and you'll find the way I kind of learned grit, but you can learn it all different ways. Differentiation is a key to our success now and in the future, and I think it's the key to any strong product, any strong business. Differentiation should provide great value. It should be a strategic and focused product or service on the target customer. It should make their lives easier. If you can build differentiation that has better value than all your competitors in the world, then you have a chance of being world-class, offering world-class service or products. Differentiation is the fuel that has driven the Rabine Group on our roadmap to national leadership and world-class products and services. A great book to read, if you guys have a pen handy or a pencil, or I guess we don't use those nowadays much, but if you can write down Blue Ocean Strategy. It's a quick read. It's a great book about differentiation. I use an example differentiation. I have a bunch that I'll be giving you, but one example. Does everybody know Jimmy John's restaurants? Everybody know what a Jimmy John's restaurant is? Okay, Jimmy John's a buddy of mine. And if you talk to Jimmy John, his sandwiches are kind of average to good. The consistency is exceptional. Every sandwich, everywhere you buy, it's going to be very, very much the same no matter where you go, right? But what's his differentiator that really sells Jimmy John's? Freaky fast, right? Simple, right? Think about all the people before him, Subway, Quiznos, and all these other guys, right? They didn't figure it out. Freaky fast, just fast delivery. It's amazing what that does, right? If that's in the back of your mind when you're at lunch, you didn't go out to lunch but your stomach's growling, it's pretty easy to order up Jimmy John's within 10 minutes it's at your front door, right? So differentiation is huge in many ways, whether it's an innovation, whether it's a service or a product. So my story starts at the age of 12 years old. 1975 with a paper route that paid $6 a week, and a bunch of customers I gained lawns for that I ended up mowing lawns at $3 to $5 a piece, I was in business. Back then, my dad was a workaholic. He worked in a factory 40 hours a week and had a side business cutting trees, selling firewood, delivering soil, and doing some landscaping. So I worked for him on the side when I wasn't doing my own work and when I wasn't in school. At 13, I was discovered. The owner of a small paving company saw me running a bobcat grading a driveway. He came up to me and said, "Hey, would you work for me doing that?" And I said, "Who are you?" He goes, I'm a paving guy, pave driveways in the area. I need somebody to grade driveways for me. Look like you know what you're doing." So I said, "What do you pay?" He said, "What are you making?" I said, "What do you pay?" He said, "What are you making?" I shot first, and that's in negotiating. You let him tell you, right? But I said $4 an hour. He said, "I'll pay you $5." So I looked at my dad and said, "Dad, when I'm not working for you, I'm working for this guy." So that was the start. I grew up. I was blessed to grow up in a family of 6 without a lot of money. I was blessed to be raised by a dad that really taught us grit. He was all about grit. He was kind of a hard ass, good guy, loved us a lot, but he was just kind of a tough guy. As kids, my dad ordered my brother and I were the youngest of 6. We had 4 older sisters, 1 bathroom. So my dad ordered my brother and I to take baths in a muddy lake that we lived on. He had a bar of ivory soap at the pier, and if it was 60 degrees or above, that's where we were taking our baths. At 15, my dad bought a new home. He had 10 acres of land. He needed the land for his dirt and his firewood and stockpiling. So upon moving in on a nice June day, my brother and I were eyeing up the bathroom. It's a nice, really nice tub in this place. We looked at my dad and said, "Hey, this is a nice bathtub, Dad." He says, "Don't even look at that tub." He goes, "It's June, it's 65 degrees. I got a bar of ivory down at the creek down there." He goes, "That creek is cleaner than that lake you took baths on the last 4 years." He goes, "That's where you're taking your baths unless it's below 60. So my dad saw us swimming in the creek. Ended up he would bathe with us once in a while and swim with us once in a while. But one day in August, a really hot day in August, my brother and I were bathing in the creek, and my brother says, "Gary, that looks like shit over there." I said, "What are you talking about?" I looked a little closer. I said, "That does look like shit." So we walked up to the house and said, "Dad," we're standing up for ourselves. We're saying, "Dad, there's shit floating down the creek." He follows us down to the creek. He looks at this stuff, and he says, "That's not shit. That's just peat moss eroding from the banks of the creek." So we believed him. He's our dad, right? So the next 3 years, we had our did our baths in the creek when it was warm enough, of course. And one day I was 18 years old, and a buddy of mine calls and says, "Gary, we're going to do a canoe trip, and I wondered if you wanted to come with us." So I said, "Yeah, I think I'll do that." I said, "Dad, I'm going to go on a canoe trip with my buddies." And he goes, "Hey, I've never been down the creek canoeing. I think I'll come with." So we had an extra canoe. Dad was with us. We had 4 canoes. I was leading the pack. I was kind of a competitive guy, so I always wanted to be in front. And my dad is a couple canoes behind us. We're about a mile from our house, and my buddy in the front of the canoe he says, "Gary, whoa!" I said, "I'm looking. What's up?" He says, "Check it out. There's like dozens of cows in the middle of the creek. Dozens, 50, 100, whatever." So I didn't think a lot of it, right? So I'm just worried about navigating around those cows. All of a sudden, we're right up next to them, and they go off. Like bombs around us. My dad was a couple canoes behind us. I said, "Dad, we told you that was shit in the creek all those years." He paddled up closer. He said, "Boy, I guess you were right." So that's grit that was just kind of natural, right? I'll tell you one more story about the same time. I was 18 years old, a couple months before graduating high school. And I was in wrestling and football. I actually got good grades the first time in my life, my senior year of high school. And my coach came to me and said, "Gary, I think I can get you a couple of partial wrestling scholarships." He goes, "There's a few small schools that are looking at our wrestlers, and you're the main focus." And I said, "Really? That'd be really cool." I never thought about a college education. And so I talked to him more, and he really thought there was some opportunity. He said, "You're going to need a few $1,000 because they only cover a couple $1,000. So I was out raking dirt with my dad on that weekend. My dad's about 20 feet away from me. I'm raking dirt. I said, "Dad, I forgot to tell you. Coach said that he might be able to get me a scholarship from one of these small schools for wrestling. I'll need some money from some help from you probably. What do you think?" So he scratches his head. He's raking dirt a little more. He scratches his head, looks back at me. He goes, "College." "You're too flippin' stupid to go to college." I didn't go to college, and look at all I got. So my dad, and my dad never used the word flippin', just so you know. So that was, it would be a shock to some kids. I knew my dad well enough to know he still loved me. He didn't have a lot of confidence in my intelligence, but he loved me. So 2 months after graduating high school, I invested everything I had. I saved some money working for my dad and some other people, another paving guy different than what I started with in high school, and saved a few $1,000s. I saw an ad in the paper for some paving equipment for sale. I went and looked at it, and it was the junkiest, rusty old paving equipment you ever want to see, but this was all I could really afford. So there was a box that goes, you put a box in the back of a truck, and it spreads asphalt. It's the oldest, most antiquated thing you could ever imagine, but you spread asphalt with it, it works. It's called a Leighton box. They had one of those, and they had a little 1-ton yard roller, a yard roller for landscaping. It really wasn't for asphalt, but this guy used it, and he just sprayed water on the back of the roller. He wanted $4,000 for this. I negotiated back and forth with him. I had to walk away because I only had like $2,500 in my savings. I wanted it for $2,000, right? Ended up going back and forth. I left. He called me back saying I could do it for $3,000. I said I can't give you $3,000. He said I can't take what you're offering me $2,000. So went back and forth. A few days later, he called me back. He said, "How much do you got?" I said, "You know what? I can give you $2,200. Figure I need a few $100 for some fuel or something, right?" So he took it. That was the start of my career. My sister made me business cards in her graphics art class, and I started knocking on doors in the North Shore of Illinois here. So where I lived in Fox Lake, Illinois, if you had a dirt driveway that you could drive in and out of, that was good enough. So I had to find places that actually cared about asphalt driveways, right? So it was the higher income areas of the North Shore here in Chicagoland area. So I began knocking on doors. I would get a driveway a week. A few weeks later, I'd get a couple driveways a week, and eventually, by the end of the year, I was doing 4 or 5 driveways a week, and things were going pretty well. I worked for my dad. I worked for a landscaper. I worked for other people over this time. So I was making $12, $13 an hour back then, and making a lot more money doing my own thing, right? So I'm going to tell the story here of our career, basically. And basically, if you look at our business, it's kind of like a hockey stick. I mean, kind of like Bonnie and Michael said, right? It's a lot of hard work. It doesn't come fast. I know a lot of business, it does come fast, right? But the odds are low. You're going to have to work hard at what you're passionate about, and it'll come. But it was kind of like a hockey stick. It was like this for the first 20 years, and then like this the last 10 to 12 years, right? And so if we think about revenues-wise, started with nothing but a couple $1,000, and last year we did about $192 million in revenues with our companies that we have today, right? Thank you. So we believe we're on track to being over $1 billion by 2020, 2022. That's kind of our goal. So 1981 to 1993, from startup to $2 million in annual revenues, just like I love competing in wrestling and playing football in high school, I love the competition of the paving business. I wanted to be the best, and I found very quickly that my passion for paving might provide a career. During the early years of business, I built strong local relationships with a couple local paving guys, people that really know what they were doing, right? I'd go watch them when they paved driveways, or actually one was a road paving foreman. I watched them pave. Another one owned a little business in paving, was pretty good at it. I went and watched them pave when I wasn't working for myself. And then a few local business leaders I met while paving driveways for them. So in the first 10 years, if I paved a driveway for somebody that had a lot of money, I wasn't afraid to ask them, "Hey, how the hell did you do this? How'd you afford this beautiful house and that nice car," right? Half the people look at me and say, "Get the hell away from me, you little shit." So, but very often they would say, "Hey, come here, let me tell you my story." And usually those people that told me their story were people that had high humility, they were leaders, and they had great stories. Those ones that said, "Get away from me, you little shit." Those people, on the other hand, probably might have fell into it. They might have been hired guns and stuff. They probably didn't build something, right? So it was pretty cool because I gained a bunch of my mentors were people I paved driveways for. So this is where I developed my passion. I learned quickly about quality, paving equipment, what to buy, what not to buy, processes, all these things from my paving mentors, right? And I learned basic business principles from the business guys. I began to realize at this point how critical, right, mentorship is. So 1993, so we got to $2 million in sales, all driveways pretty much. 1993 to 2003, we grew a little faster. Our business went from $2 million to $6 million over that time. Between 1993 and 2003, we focused more on parking lots. And parking lots are bigger dollars, right? It was kind of exciting. Bigger dollars, bigger customers. And I could really see where this business is growing to something much larger than a couple $1 million driveway company, right? So during this period, I and my leadership team of 4 to 5 people at the time traveled to conventions across the country, learning about advanced processes and technology. Each year, our goal is to find a few nuggets of differentiation and bring them back, right? Bring them back to our crews. We kind of did our own crude research and development, right? We'd pave a mixed design that nobody ever heard of, and it would fall apart, and we'd have to go back and do the job, right? But eventually we found mixed designs in asphalt and concrete that were better than our competition. It was working out. We bought equipment that nobody else had to make us more productive, to deliver more quality. In 1995, after great success in these innovations, we changed our slogan. My slogan was originally, "The quality goes in before the name rolls on." Kind of the Zenith thing back then, if you ever heard of that. It was a little bit like that. But then in 1995, when I realized the value of differentiation, I wanted my team members to really understand how we wanted to differentiate. I wanted to always think about how can we get better? How do we differentiate? So I wanted it in their heads every day. I also wanted our customers' heads every day. What are these guys doing different? What are they doing to push the industry? What new are those Rabine guys doing, right? So discover the difference was a slogan that we came up with then, and it's worked really well since. So while differentiation and innovation was the focus, the mentors I gained in the paving industry were incredible resources, right? A couple of the best pavement engineers in the country were my friends. And 5 to 6 of the best parking lot paving companies in the country became my friends and mentors as well. Networking and mentoring with the most passionate people in the paving industry paid off. By 2000, we grew to $6 million in sales. Everything was great. Our EBITDA was strong. It was making a great buck. We were making over $1 million a year net profit. We were able to pay everything off. We had no debt on our home, no debt on our equipment. Our team members were making more money than the unions were paying the competitive companies around us. Everything was great. Until the Chicagoland unions noticed our growth. So we began a fight against the unions. I went to my team members and said, hey, these guys want to organize us. If you guys want to be a union, it's up to you. I prefer to stay out of the unions, but I'm the business owner. I want to hear from you guys. What do you want? They investigated the unions. They investigated the pay, the benefits. And at the end, they said, absolutely not. We want to stay non-union. We believe we can be more competitive. We believe that we'll stay a tighter-knit group. And so that was a great thing. I felt really good about the team I'd built and the culture that I built, right? Ended up to be a pretty bad thing overall. Because over the next 2.5 years, we fought these unions. And we ended up losing 100% of the net worth we created for the first 20 years. So it was an ugly battle. I'll tell you about it in a minute. But we signed a contract with the unions in 2003. It required incredible grit for our team to get through the long battle. We weren't happy partnering with the same unions that almost bankrupted us, but it was time to move on. The union fight was an incredible fight, and we never imagined we could lose this fight when none of our team members wanted to join them. Over 2.5 years, a normal day was vandalism of trucks or equipment. It was death threats. It was trespassing. It was new false labor charges filed against us. But we had a lot of fun, too. There was a lot of fun stories I could tell over that 2.5 years. I mean, it was a nightmare, but we made it fun. And we banded together as a team to fight against them. So it was an interesting story. I could tell many stories about it. I'll tell you one quick story. So my dad at this time was working for me. He was driving truck and collecting money. He was really good at collecting money. So one day, a business agent. These business agents drive, and these guys are our partners today. I'll tell you, these people are our partners today, right, in the Chicagoland area. We have to deal with them every day. But back then, they were the enemy. So this business agent, and they had 60 of them following our trucks and cars and every day, and they were planted at the pits and the plants, and they wouldn't let us load gravel, and they would tell the loaders not to load us. They would scare our customers away. And one day, one of these business agents followed one of our trucks into my dad's property, the same property where the creek was at. I wasn't bathing there anymore though, but the same area. My dad needed some fill at the site, so my foreman said, "Hey, take the loads of fill to Gary's dad's place." So my dad was there piling up dirt while they dumped loads. This is about 5:30 in the morning. I get a call from my dad. We have two-way radios back then, right? So I'm getting ready to go into work, and I get a call. He says, "I got one!" So I said, "You're not a fisherman. What do you got?" He goes, "I got one of these BAs. They followed one of your trucks into my property. I shut the gate behind them. I got my loader in front of him. He's not going anywhere. The loader is a 3-yard, like a 50,000-pound loader that he was using to push up dirt. And I got my shotgun on him." So I showed up, And this young guy, nice young guy, he looked like a Iowa wrestler. He's from Iowa, big-shouldered guy. He was in his car, and my dad's pointing the shotgun at him. And I said, hey, leave him alone. He let off. He goes, no, he's not going anywhere till the cops get here. I'm not taking this gun away from him. And so the guy says, are you Mr. Rabine? I said, yeah. He goes, could you please get this guy away from me? And I said, it's his property. There's no trespassing signs everywhere. You're hassling my truck drivers every day. I said, he's sticking up for the best interest of our business. I appreciate it, And he goes, please just keep the gun away. At that time, I noticed a wet spot. So I said, Dad, get the gun down and stay away from this guy. So the cops showed up shortly after that, and when I talk about unions, it's not so much the unions. They're not all bad guys, but they have support from our politicians in the state of Illinois in a big way. So the sheriff's department in my county and every county around the Chicagoland area gets donations from these unions, bigger than whatever I can afford, right? Not only the sheriff's department, but also the state's attorney's office and the sheriff's department. So they cover most of the stuff that goes on when it comes to this kind of stuff. So anyway, they came, they wrote a report for trespassing for this guy, and then 2 days later we filed for a Freedom of Information Act, and the information's gone or blacked out. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen today, because I think it might. And I'm talking about my partners right now. But bottom line is, the same guy at 3:30 in the morning that next morning, this guy just got there. He's a young guy. They put him on this detail. We have a yard on a main road, Route 12. This guy was placed across the street to watch for our trucks that come out at 4:30 in the morning of our yard. He can call then the other business agents to follow our trucks for the day. So his job was to be there, watch for the trucks to come out. Now, at 5:30 in the morning, he had some real problems, right? At 3:30 in the morning, he's the guy they put across from our yard. So sure enough, at about 4 o'clock in the morning, I got a guy, I can't tell you the name, he raps on the window of this car. He says, hey, get up! He's knocking. He's there to yell at him, give him a hard time. The guy doesn't wake up. Knocks a little more. The guy doesn't wake up. So at 4:30, this guy wakes up to a truck coming out of our yard, a bunch of trucks. He starts the car, puts it in gear, and he was on blocks. His front axle was on blocks. He had no front tires. He had no license plate or antennas, and his front of his car was just along the highway, while our trucks went by, laying on the horn. So this guy had a tough day. And again, probably a really nice guy. So that steep slope, when I talk about the steep slope, it's the hockey stick. It happened 2003 to 2013. We began to get some momentum in our business. I was able to invest in great equipment, hire excellent people, hire people that challenge me every day, and people that would never work for me 10 years before, right? So in 2003, after we signed these agreements with the unions, and we did, 2003, we changed the name to the Rabine Group. The Rabine Group was 3 companies at the time, 2 that would do really non-union work, seal coating, maintenance, and driveways, and then 1, Rabine Paving, that would do just parking lot work, right? So we had 3 different companies, and you guys will understand this, some of you guys will understand this. If you have a union agreement, that company that signs the union agreement is exclusively union from there on, forever. You can't hardly get out of those agreements, right? So we had we had a pretty good attorney advised us on to set up a few companies, because the 2 companies were in totally exclusive non-union businesses. So in 3 years, we grew over 300%. And again, at this point, when we signed, I was basically bankrupt. My bank was a great bank, and they stuck behind me, but really didn't have much to our names. We're probably worth a negative $400,000 or $500,000 from being worth $4 or $5 million, right? And the cost I could get into, but it was crazy the money we spent to fight. But in 3 years we grew over 300%, and in 10 years over 2,000%. We became the largest parking lot paving company and maintenance company in our region by 2007. And with the startup of Rabine Paving America, a national paving company in 2008, and innovations in concrete paving, the Rabine Group now builds and maintains more parking lots than any other paving company in the country. A huge part of the growth was because of networking. Over the last 10 years, with the sharpest minds in the world in pavement engineering, what's happened is we ended up hiring 2 of the brightest minds in pavement engineering in the world, one asphalt paving, one concrete paving, that advise and guide our crews, our project managers, and our operations people. So with that, we joined a bunch of national associations that had the smartest engineers and gained great friendships and mentorships with them, right? A couple of the most renowned guys are those ones that came to work for us. They were mentors for us for a couple of years. We listened to them a lot. We sponged off them a lot, paid their annual fees. And we really learned a lot about different mix designs, different processes. So since our leap and investment to have the best minds in pavement engineering on our team, we've developed pavements that no other paving companies in the world have done except us. We patented and trademarked pavements that other companies can't do. They have no clue on how to do it, right? We have the patents for a lot of this stuff and the trademarks, so we can protect it. So with these innovations, entrepreneurship mentality we've got with our leaders today, we've had a bunch of awards, a lot of fun stuff. So we've received a bunch of innovation awards, entrepreneurship awards, and more than I could ever imagine. As recently as last Wednesday, we won the Chicago Innovation Award for product and construction, and it's Prime Composite. Because we now network globally with the best engineers in the world in our space, concrete pavements and asphalt pavements, we discovered a scientist in Latvia, actually worked for a company in Latvia, a German scientist / engineer, that for the last 20 years has been trying to figure out how to pour concrete in buildings this size without any joints in the concrete. So if you think about that, it doesn't seem like a big deal, right? But joints are there because concrete cracks. And if you could pour it with no joints, it's because you're confident it's not going to crack, right? So this guy for 20 years, that was his goal. He figured it out. A CEO and entrepreneur in Latvia, a very, very free enterprise country today, met this person, hired him, and brought all this stuff to market, right? Got it all patented. It's called Prime Composite. So with our engineers, networking with his engineers, myself networking with leadership groups, I knew the CEO through this networking group. My engineers knew his engineers. We got to be friends with him. We investigated his product. We ended up bringing it to market in North America. And today, we're the North American licensor for this product. We brought it to market this year. And it's an amazing, amazing product. It'll be a large company in a short period of time. So during the last 10 years, the Rabine Group acquired and started 5 paving companies, 2 roofing companies, a trucking company, a fuel and oil distribution company, and built the Rabine Academy and national headquarters in Schaumburg, Illinois. So the Rabine Academy now it's a 100,000 square foot building we bought in a really good time when real estate was really low. We took the roof off and we have 15 different roofs on the roof. We have green roofs, we have solar roofs, we have every type of roof you can imagine. And then the parking lot, about 3.5 acres, we tore it all out, we profiled it all, and we repaved it with 16 different types of pavements, 8 of which nobody else in the world does except us, that last longer, have better life cycle value, and are competitive. We also started a few incubator companies and acquired a championship golf course. If anybody golfs, you can email me and go play our course. It's called Bull Valley. It's a championship golf course in the northwest suburbs here, and an awesome place to play. It's a private course, so you got to email me direct. The confidence in all this entrepreneurship growth since 2003 has been a direct relationship to joining leadership organizations where I and our leaders can seek out networks and forums from across the globe to continually learn from global leadership organizations like Young Presidents Organization, YPO, like World Presidents Organization. Those are the groups I'm most engaged with, and they've been invaluable to me. While Vistage and EO are working well for our president and our other young leaders. The confidence gained from the networking with leaders that share similar values, learning from their experiences as friends and mentors also allows us to create much clearer roadmap to our future. For the first 20 years in business, I'm ashamed to say I paid very little attention to politics. I didn't think it really mattered. I thought if I focused on my business, I had to do, but as I had that union fight, I realized that politics matter, and to understand what's going on around you in government and regulation is really important. So I paid very little attention, as I said, and I knew about free enterprise. I knew what capitalism meant. I was living it, but I didn't really do much to support it. So after seeing the corruption firsthand in local politics during our union battles, I realized I needed to get more involved. Over the last 10 years, I've grown to understand more about big government, corrupt government, and how it kills jobs and entrepreneurship opportunities, and the spirit of free enterprise and what that does for our country and what it's done to create the strongest, most beautiful country in the world. One of the most individually impactful organizations I've been a part of is JCN. It's called Job Creators Network. This network was started by Bernie Marcus. He's on TV a lot. You'll probably see him talking about it. Bernie was the founder of Home Depot, one of the greatest entrepreneurs of all time. I was blessed to be asked to be a founder a few years ago. And I've elevated my awareness of how regulation, taxes, and big government policy is waging war against free enterprise. Free enterprise is the most awesome system in the world, as we know. We're all entrepreneurs here and entrepreneur-minded, we know it. It also is a system that created the strongest economy on earth. Another great organization for young entrepreneurs who want to stay abreast of policies that'll affect your future free enterprise opportunities is Turning Point USA. Anybody ever heard of that? Turning Point USA. It's an organization started by a young guy, Charlie Kirk. He started at like 18 years old. He just turned 20. He's one of my best friends. He's a smart young guy. He's on the news a lot. He's on the news probably twice a week on CNBC and Fox and everything else. But anyway, so he started this organization, and it basically creates awareness to high school kids, college kids, on a daily basis to our country's students and youth on what policies are coming down the line, how do they affect you as youth, our future debt, and our future entrepreneurship opportunity. I'm a very blessed guy. Because of these leadership networks I and our leaders are engaged with, we have hundreds of friends that are leaders and entrepreneurs that we gain mentoring from. As the Rabine Group grows to $1 billion group of companies, we have an unfair advantage. That unfair advantage is the ability to tap into the greatest minds in business today, to be ready for the opportunities and the challenges of tomorrow. Within the Rabine Group, we have the Rabine Group Foundation. We invest in causes that serve the communities our businesses serve. 3 to 5% of the profits of every one of our companies goes to the Rabine Group Foundation. My wife is the director of our foundation, and she has a board of members from all of our different parts of our company and different parts of the areas we work in. Because of this foundation, we often serve less fortunate neighborhoods. It's tough to see the lack of opportunity the youth of these neighborhoods have. Low incomes, high unemployment, high crime, and broken families. One day, as I was thinking about the drivers of my success, I realized it wasn't growing up with money. It wasn't growing up with a college education. My success has been most exclusively due to my ability to ask for mentoring through networking. In a meeting with Bernie Marcus and the Job Creators Board, we were talking about a survey that had just come out showing that over 40% of people between 17 and 30 preferred socialism over capitalism. 30 years ago, that percentage would have been less than 10. We kicked around ideas about how we could educate younger people on the value of free enterprise. That weekend, I came up with an idea which was derived from that conversation that has now become a startup business, and it will be launched in the spring of 2014. Our new business is called True Mentors, and it will be an interactive website where complete mentorship profiles will be built to be accessible by anyone. These mentors will be true small business leaders and large business titans that will have the ability to virtually mentor thousands. Other features of True Mentors will be live one-on-one mentoring. When resumes of mentees show a clear passion for the industry the true mentor is a leader in, there'll be opportunity to be mentored one-on-one. There'll be also internship opportunities for mentees and networking among all true mentor users. My goal is for any person in America to be able to find their passion in life. And when they do, to be able to be mentored by the champions in that industry. I believe true mentors can help fuel the fire of entrepreneurship and educate on the value of free enterprise. I believe true mentors will guide passionate, hardworking entrepreneurs and give them the ability to connect the dots to their roadmap to success. Will everybody hold up your smartphones? Everybody got a smartphone in here? Facebook, when you get it, Facebook, True Mentors, one word, truementors.com. Once you get there, like us. The more likes we get, the more momentum we create. It'll be up and running in the spring of this 2014. I'm very blessed with where passion, grit, differentiation, and my true mentors have taken myself and our team. My dad is a 25% partner now in one of our smaller companies, the trucking company. He still works 6 to 7 days a week, and he still claims, "See, I told you I was right. You were too stupid to go to college." But he'll never call those small logs floating down the creek Pete Moss again. Remember, grit, passion, differentiation, and embrace free enterprise. Thank you.
Thank you. You bet.